Laws of maxim. Pay attention to what these are. They're also known as God's laws. These laws come straight out of the Bible, and they are the highest laws of the land. It's the land, not talking about the spiritual side, because the spiritual side is higher than all of this. As you can see, that's why it's at the top. But they are rights that are given to you by God to all beings and cannot be taken away by anyone. Now I need you to understand something, because I've heard people say, well, why is God's laws down here? Okay, when we're talking about universal laws, we're talking about cosmic laws, as I've said, and spiritual energies. All right, basically how the universe operates and things that most people don't see or know because we weren't taught these laws that we should have been taught. When we're talking about God's laws, we're talking about laws that come from the Bible that were set down by, in this case, whatever your God is. All right, if you read in the Bible, then that's what your God said. If it's the Quran, that's what your God said. Whatever your God, because it could be Buddha, and whatever book that they read from, that's the laws of maxim. Okay, and so the deal is that those laws pertain to, again, if it's you Buddha, you Buddhism, you Judaism over here, you Christianity, and you this, it doesn't matter, because when we're talking about those laws, when you go into a court of law, as long as you have recognized what your God said, then those laws are going to be respected. But if you never say, well, my God said this, well, then they're not going to respect anything your God said, because you never brought your God with you. You didn't take your God with you. So the deal is, what is a God? I want to touch on this a little bit today, but I've gone into it deeper. Now, I've seen gods on all kinds of levels, from a microscopic level to a macroscopic level to a third dimensional level. A God, according to what we see and what we have established, is a being that controls its third dimension with its energies. A God is a being that controls its third dimension with its energies. And when we're looking at these vessels, for example, and we talked about the different contracts within you, one coming from the mitochondria, one coming from whatever being created, the X and the Y chromosome, and the contracts that go with those. Whatever beings that created that would be considered a God. Now, I don't want to get into religion right now, because I get my religious Bible thumping people upset, and I need to be able to explain thoroughly. But let me just say this. When we're talking about the Bible, let's go with the Bible in particular. You're talking about a set of entities. And if you haven't read, because I heard somebody say this, that, oh, you know, if you start talking about that Anunnaki stuff, then you're talking about they anti-God, they anti-Christ. And this person clearly has not studied or read. That's why when you come in, let me back up so I can make this clear. For those of y'all who are new here, this is a channel for mature people. This is a channel for people who want to study for themselves. Don't believe a word I say. Go and look this information up for yourself. Okay, I'm not here to try to sway you one way or the other, because for me, I deal with universal laws, and universe doesn't care about what your religion is. She doesn't. She doesn't care about any of that Judaism, Buddhism, Christianity, Muslim, and she don't care. If you put an energy out, it's coming back to you regardless of what your religion is. Regardless of what your religion is, if you put an energy out, the universe is going to return that energy to you in full. So when we're talking about the maxims of law, you're talking about the entity, in this case, that created the vessel. That's what these laws deal with. And that God, whatever entity that you say created your vessel, set down a set of laws that cannot be taken away from you. Some of those laws include the right not to contract, meaning nobody can force you into a contract. Now, if you know what your God said, and most guys will say this, nobody has the right to force you into a contract. It doesn't matter whether you're Buddhism, Christian, Muslim, all the gods and all those books said you can't force somebody into a contract. It says you have a right to bear arms. You got a right to protect yourself. You got a right to create money. You got a right to travel this planet without governmental documentation. What we're now recognizing is, when we're talking about the laws of Maxim, these come from the Bible. But when we're talking about the universal laws, well, what is the universe? Now, let's get into that. As I talked about what a God is. Whatever entity created the vessel. But let me say this. You too are a God. Let me restate that because somebody's not getting it. You too are a God. And when we get into these universal laws, you're going to understand why you too are a God. Again, what is a God? Basically, it's an entity that has the ability to control its third dimension with its energies. And that's exactly what each and every last one of you have been doing. You have been controlling your third dimension with your energies, but you didn't know that you were a God. And so you've been spraying energies all across this planet, not recognizing that you are a God. And so now when I present these universal laws to you, now you need to become accountable for your energies so that now you can create the third dimension that you care to see. This is why I know when somebody tells me somebody stole from them, I know what they did. And it's only because I know law. And if you pay attention, you're going to be able to see too. Knowing these laws gives you a different and a higher vision. Okay, most people don't have this vision because they don't have these laws. Remember to keep that bell on for notifications. Follow UNA Republic for more great information.